Are WNBA players asking for too much? Now, I'm going to talk about Cheryl Miller, and she said when the whole notion about $2.2 billion was going to go to the WNBA, which was announced by Adam Silver. Why is that thing coming up, David Stern? All right, so Adam Silver is the commissioner, and I want to go into some things that he said. He says that the WNBA now gets $2.2 billion after this media rights deal. All right. And somebody brought it up during an interview with Cheryl Miller. And this was right around, right after the WNBA All-Star game. And so they asked Cheryl Miller, they said, Cheryl, did you hear about the $2.2 billion that the commissioner Adam Silver just allotted to the WNBA? And she said, oh yeah, how much is it? Oh, that's not enough. He said, well, how much you think? She said, how much is it again? Because this is my first time hearing about it. He said, it's $2.2 billion. She said, no, that's not enough. Whatever that is, you need to multiply that. It's much more than that the WNBA deserves. Now, this comes up around the time, once again, that the players are saying they wanted a raise in their pay. Okay, now let me say this. When it comes to the WNBA, I told you all before that I worked with them for a brief stint on one of the tours that I had on one of the organizations that I had created. And what I found was that they didn't promote. They made it very difficult for the players to do anything concerning promotions. They had a tight rein on anything the players could. Oh, they can't go here and do this. They can't say this. They can't show up over here, and they can't be back here. And it was like, well, how do you expect them to promote? So basically, I had an organization where we traveled different states. It was a skating organization, and I had youth, and we dealt with fitness, and we would perform during halftime. And WNBA was one of those, the organizations that we worked with. And so we did a brief tour, and then we had different players that they signed on to work with. Skate Capade is the name of the organization at that time. And whenever we tried to do something, it was like, they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't. And it was like, well, how? We're trying to promote for people to come to this game, and you are making it difficult for us to even go out and do something with the players so that we can bring more people. And so it was just that whole madness. And so okay. Even it was hard to watch the games because, again, the quality of the games were low. They didn't excite me. And then, again, they're not even allowing the players to really interact with the public so that they can get anything going, because they just got this tight rein on anything they can do. Okay, so when I come back into this thing because of Caitlin Clark, and I'm watching, once again, I'm seeing the poor, low-quality play. It's boring. Like when Caitlin Clark doesn't do what Caitlin Clark does, I can't watch that because it's boring. When she was being held back by Christy Sides, and they playing this low, boring basketball and the poor shots, and this is when, like, when I was first starting watching, Aaliyah was getting back into shape. Well, this before she really got back into shape. And, she just throw the ball up, and, people weren't catching the balls. And to see the things that was happening against Clark where, they were freezing her out of plays, it was madness. Like, I can't watch this. So, and I definitely wasn't going to watch the other teams. I wasn't interested. All right. The negative energy that's coming from the players, not just on the Fever team at that time, but for the whole season from other players, the commissioner, and the lack of her address to what's going on the floor that all of us who are watching can see. She would not address that. And then she turns around and addresses something because, the players, well, these racist people. Okay. So you want to address that where there's no proof of anything that they're saying. I'm going to get on that later. Then you got a lack of promotion by the league. Once again, I said they don't promote. They didn't promote back then. They're still not promoting now. Incompetent officiating. I can't watch something where the officials are purposely miscalling a game. You can't be making that many bad calls and not being paid to do so. You can't. It doesn't work that way. You can't be that incompetent. And if you're that incompetent, I got to look at the commissioner and wonder why the commissioner isn't firing somebody. She wasn't trying to fire them. Clearly biased the commissioner was, getting back to her, that dress she wore for the final game where it was clear that the referees were throwing the game. Okay. Poor and negative coaching. Again, just the screens that we were seeing. I mean, I know they teach these things in college, but why is not being done or coached up in the pros? Commentating. You got people who are commentating and refusing to speak on the player who's bringing everybody to view it. Just being very disrespectful. And the commissioner and the league allowing this disrespect on the player that's bringing numbers to the game. Then you got these other people who are talking about, oh, Caitlin Clark needs to tell her fans that. When the people who are doing these things, they're claiming they're not even fans. They're just trolls. But you got the commissioner allowing this. And then when somebody makes a comment against the fans, she doesn't make any comments about that. Okay. And all the organizations that are associated with it, ESPN, just a lack of respect. So I got an issue when it comes to the WNBA with that. However, I needed to be made clear that people are not being honest about the value of the WNBA. I'm going to read some things. People are not being honest about what's really going on with the WNBA. People are saying that the WNBA has been losing $40 million a year, and that the NBA is still financing the WNBA. I need this to be made clear that that is not the case. Is not the case. I'm going to go through these because there's a couple of notes that I've made in here that make it clear that the NBA has not been supporting the WNBA for years, since 2003. And I want to pull it up in here so that we can see it together, and it's not just something that you're thinking I made up. But remember, I said earlier that there are some men in particular who are hell-bent on making the WNBA seem like it's some kind of, like it's just a charity organization. WNBA commissioner outlines her transformative plan to pivot the league from survive to thrive. Now, in this article, I just want to get into what the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, said. All right. She says that this whole paradigm and the way that the WNBA had been run was a male model, discounted by 80 to 90%, she said, whatever that means. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert isn't shying away from any of it. She's taking aim at what she calls a broken sports ecosystem that has a historically and dramatically undervalued women in sports. All right. So she says in a 90-minute interview, Engelbert, the former CEO of Deloitte, who accepted the WNBA's top job as her second act in 2019, said she can fix the issues of the WNBA. Instead of tinkering around the edge, Engelbert is focused on the fundamental question of equity. She says she has a 5-year plan that includes assembling consortium of power stakeholders who want to persuade corporate America that the WNBA is more than a NBA's little sister. They argued that it is a growing business that found tremendous transactions through its racial and social activism in 2020. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this one up in particular is because of the simple fact that in 2020, they got involved in this Black Lives Matter whole deal. All right. And this was an issue remember I think it was 2022, when the owner of the Atlanta Dream, she refused to take part in that whole scheme. And so they worked to get this woman removed. She had to sell Atlanta Dream because of the fact that she said, I'm not participating in that Black Lives Matter. Now, meanwhile, remember Caitlin Clark? Remember how Caitlin Clark was like, they were giving her all kind of fits because she was refusing to be political. They were like, Caitlin Clark, you need to come out and say that black women deserve attention. And because she didn't, they were giving her a hard time. This right here is letting you know that in 2020, they were making money off of the Black Lives Matter. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. When I talk about a group with an agenda, or, a secret group, I told you that whole Black Lives Matter movement is not run by melanated people. Let's be clear on that. And I also made it clear that the people who were running that Black Lives Matter had an agenda. And it doesn't have anything to do with skin color. It's about keeping people fighting. And as long as these people can keep folk fighting, they will fund both sides. They'll fund Black Lives Matter, NAACP, and then they'll go and fund the KKK. They don't care as long as there's a fight. There is a fight. As long as there is a fight, they will fund both sides. And that's what you see happening. All right? And so I'm getting ready to get into this because she's showing in this article that when they got involved with this activism in 2022, what they call racial and social activism, that's when they started making money. The Black Lives Matter is paying them to have this agenda. And you got to understand, when these people give you money, they're going to tell you what to do. And that's what you have to do, because it's a secret society that's running the Black Lives Matter. And they're going to fund you. They're going to give you money, but now you owe them. And you have to do what they tell you to do. And let's understand, these people who funding the Black Lives Matter, they're funding the NAACP, they're funding it, they are tied in with a whole bunch of other organizations. I'm going to get into it in a second, because I'm going to go a little bit deep. But they're all tied in. And so when they're giving money, and they're telling you clearly here, Engelbert is telling you that they've received funds, because they start getting money from this whole racial and social activism in 2020. All right. Engelbert also has plans to prioritize, and let me move this back over so you all can see it. Engelbert also has plans to prioritize marketing and merchandise while looking hard at expansion, sports, gambling, and partnership. And she's making the case for higher media rights fees. Okay. It's not going to be easy, she said. I have a plan, already working on it. All right. So right here, given their similar birthdays, Major League Soccer may be the best financial comparison to the WNBA. This article goes on to say that right here, the WNBA, according to media estimates, receives at least $25 million a year in rights deal split between the ESPN and CBS. This is the WNBA we're talking about. This is not the NBA. This is the WNBA we're talking about. So the WNBA, according to the media estimate, receives at least $25 million a year in rights deals split between ESPN and CBS. So again, the whole question here, the whole deal here that we're talking about is, are WNBA players asking for too much? And everybody keeps saying out of their mouth, oh, well, they keep losing money, and they lost $40 million this year, and they're set to lose $40 million, and they're just being funded by the NBA, and they're just being propped up by the NBA. But here we having a report, and it's telling you they getting $25 million a year. That's what this report is saying. See, somebody is running with an agenda, and I'm not understanding why. When we can look this stuff up for ourselves, I'm not making this up, and I'm going to put the links to these articles in the chat section below. But we're seeing here that they made $25 million at least a year. All right. It talks about there is a huge fee gap between men's and women's, Engelbert said, even those men's sports that we actually compete with quite well with. WNBA teams have consistently sold for $10 million to $15 million. Now, we got to look at this and understand something. You telling me that the WNBA and that's on the low end, Engelbert says. You telling me that this league that has lost, you saying is losing $40 million every year, the team sell for on the low 10 to 15 million. That's on the low. Really, other franchises selling for 40 million now. Why would they be selling for that much? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't even make any kind of business or financial sense. Why would anybody be propping up a team for 25 plus years? Now, I talked about what an asset is and what happens when you create an organization and how it creates an estate. I'm not going into that today. I might, because I got time. I'm going to be up. But my whole point here is this. You've got to recognize that there's something else that's not being told to us. And the fact is that the WNBA has value. These teams have value. And there was another part of this article in here where it talks about that the league itself is worth $1 billion. But there's more to this game. There's more to these things that I need to bring out. So let's take a look at this next article real quick. Once again, I say to you, the NBA hasn't been propping up the WNBA. This thing here says the WNBA on Thursday announced it completed its first ever capital raise. All right. Bringing in a host of big names, investors, including Nike. All right. And former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice as the league looks to accelerate growth. The Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, raised $75 million from investors who also include, now this is in, 2020. This article is written in 2022. All right. They just said the Women's National Basketball Association raised $75 million from investors, which include Dell Technologies CEO Michael Dell, Laurene Powell Jobs, which is a philanthropist and widow of Apple co-founder Steve Jobs. Following the funding, the valuation of the WNBA, its teams, is $1 billion, according to the source with knowledge of the deal. Following the funding, the valuation of the WNBA, this is the WNBA now, not the NBA, and its teams is $1 billion. That's how much it's worth, according to a source with knowledge of the deal. We've all seen the reports that less than 5% of all sports media coverage and the less than 1% of all sponsorship dollars go to women's sports. So access to this capital when you're trying to grow a business is really going to help us move the needle, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert says. Okay, the league's milestone 25th season, which concluded in October, this was October of 2022, saw a large jump in TV viewership, according to Disney, on ESPN, which broadcast some of the regular games and the entire postseason. Regular season viewership was 49% compared to 2020 season and 24% compared with 2019. So it increased from 49% and 24%. All right. So now we see an increase in viewership. We're not even talking about 2024. But again, this organization raised $75 million. Let me go to this other article here, and then I'm going to get into it. What I see and the fact that people are not telling the whole deal. All right, so this is talking about how by 2002, the WNBA allowed outside ownership of groups to buy and expand the league. 5 teams share ownership with their NBA brother team, the Fever Pacers, Liberty Nets, Mystics Wizards, Mercury Suns, and Lynx Timberwolves. All right. 3 teams share ownership with another pro sports team, the Aces Raiders, Sparks Dodgers, and Wings. Bill Cameron is part owner of the Thunder, and the Sun are owned by a Native American operated Mohegan Sun Casino. The Storm are owned by an all-female group, and the Sky are owned by real estate developer Michael Alter. I did some research, right? Because once again, you keep hearing all these people say, oh, well, they're not making no money. They lost $40 million this year. Okay, let me pull something up. We're going to look up how much the WNBA profited. WNBA profit 2022. Let me see what we find. It says for the 2021-22 NBA season, the NBA generated $10 billion, while the WNBA revenue was estimated to be 180 to 200 million. This just said the revenue, which is after expenses, was 180 to 200 million. All right. Let me look at 2023. What do we see? In 2023, one might think the influx of cash and the upsurge in the popularity might have improved the WNBA's overall financial situation in recent years. It has. In 2023, for example, the league reported revenues of $200 million, doubled their $102 million income from 2019. This is in 2023. What does it look like in 2024? Because I don't even know if it's calculated for 2024, but everybody keeps saying they're supposed to lose $40 million this year, and that the league has never brought in a profit. That's what everybody is telling us. Meanwhile, when I just looked this up, it says, okay, they expected to lose $50 million despite. Why? Where's this article coming from? Sports media. Where is this article coming from? And why is it that people are running with this notion that the WNBA has never made a profit? Why is it that they made a profit in 2023, but they had even higher numbers and they expected to lose? Where is this coming from? This is a straight up agenda, because it's not making sense. And it's not going to make sense because of the simple fact that it's a lie. It's a lie. The same way it's a lie that the NBA has been funding the WNBA for however many years. I'm trying to find this article, and I couldn't notice how I couldn't get in it. WNBA expected to lose. WNBA expected to lose. These are lies. Because I just showed you that in 2022, it's saying they had at least 100 million. Then it's talking about in 2019, they had 100 million. Then it says in 2022, it was 180 million. 2023, 200 million. But now they're saying after this year, when Caitlin Clark was in here, that they're gonna lose 40 billion. It's a lie. And let me show you something. Here's another thing I need to go in on. I need to talk to y'all because somebody is running an agenda, and I need to make this clear. Y'all remember that earlier this year there was this whole media rights deal where the NBA was re-signing. Let's be clear that they were re-signing because of Caitlin Clark. Because Clark came in here and there was a clause in that deal, that media rights deal, whereby the NBA could revisit. Now, what's happening is, once again, this is a package deal with them, the WNBA and the NBA. And what happens is the NBA is negotiating this, and it's on behalf of the WNBA as well. Now, let me watch this now. They go into this deal for the renegotiation. Originally, the contract, the media rights deal was $24 billion. $24 billion. And then they go and renegotiate that deal, and they get $75 billion. So it went from $24 billion to $75 billion over an 11-year period. That is a gain of $52 billion. Okay, that they got. Let's be clear, because Caitlin Clark comes into this game. And again, remember I told you the other media rights deal, they said that it was $24 million a year just for the media rights deal. That's before Caitlin Clark. Now when Caitlin Clark comes in, that's how much. Now, let me keep going. They said it was $24 million for the media rights deal before Caitlin Clark. With this deal, there was $24 billion for the WNBA and NBA package deal. They renegotiated when Caitlin Clark got in here for $76 billion, which was an additional $52 billion that they gained, largely in part to Caitlin Clark. Okay, now watch this now. Adam Silver turns around and he says, we're going to allot $2.2 billion to the WNBA. Now, let me say this again. They just came up $52 billion. They just came up $52 billion because of Caitlin Clark. Now, let me be clear. They already had $24 billion. We don't know how much of that was truly allotted for the WNBA. And again, I don't even like sitting here defending the WNBA. I don't, because I don't like the way they're run. I don't care for the energy that's coming off of that league. I don't like the way there's cheating going on when it comes to the officials. I don't like the fact that the commissioner is turning a blind eye and showing bias. I don't like the coaching. I don't care for the play. There's the package, the whole deal, to me, is not a good product. I'm here because of Caitlin Clark. However, I have to tell the facts and the truth how they are. And the truth and the facts are that the WNBA has been had the money. They've been had the money. And $24 billion is what the package deal was, the media rights package deal was for both of them. But they had been allotted, the WNBA, at least $24 million according to the document that I just read. Meanwhile, everybody's saying they're supposed to lose money and they've never gained money. When I just looked it up right there on the internet, it said, no, they made $100 million in 2019. In 2022, they turned around, they was making $180 million. In 2023, it's saying they made $200 million. Now, how in the ham sandwich are you telling me they supposed to lose $40 million when you got Caitlin Clark coming in here? Why is it that the commissioner and all these other people are allowing everybody to run with this whole notion that the NBA is funding the WNBA when they haven't been funding the WNBA since 2003? Why hasn't it been talked about these $75 million that was raised? Now, I'm saying they've got the money. And I need to go back to this whole new media rights deal that they just signed. They came up $42 billion. And then they're going to just allot $2.2 billion. It's a disrespect. Remember, I talked about Cheryl Miller. And Cheryl Miller said, how much is it, 2.2 million? Well, it's way more than that. So let's just say they wanted 10 times more than that. And they said, no, we need 10 times this 2.2 million. What would that be? That would be 22 billion. She said, want 10 times this 2.2 billion. That'd be 22 billion. So if they asked for 22 billion out of that 52 billion that they came up, that's not too much to ask for. Because now they're saying, okay, we get 22 and you get 30. Is that right? 30 billion plus 22 billion That's 52 billion. That's not even talking about the other 24 billion. You still get to keep the 24 billion that you originally had. Now we asking you to come up 22 billion. That's really, that it should be more than that. But that's fair. That's more than fair if if the WNBA were to ask for the 22 billion. The NBA has come up, and let me just be clear about this. The NBA is taking advantage of the WNBA. In that deal, for him to come out and say, well, yeah, we're going to allot you 2.2 billion when we just came up because of y'all another 52. We ain't talking about even the original 24 billion. Just leave that out. Just talk about what you came up because you were able to renegotiate because we got Caitlin Clark in here. And you mean to tell me the only amount you willing to allot to us is well, you're now worth 2.2 billion. Stop playing. Somebody doesn't know contracting again. And that's what Cheryl said. You need somebody in there who's willing to fight, who's willing to do the numbers, because the numbers, I'm just putting them to you, is simple as this. You can tell me, well, they was carrying the WNBA for all this time, which is not true, but let's pretend like that's what happened. Then you just coming up $30 billion. That's fair. You made your money back. Now you getting $30 billion. Give them at least 22. Somebody should be negotiating this, because there's no way that they should be saying we coming up 52 billion and we only gonna give you 2. That's a disrespect. That's taking advantage. But see, guess what? It goes on down the line, because Kathy Engelberg has been getting the money. She has been getting millions, but she's telling the players, oh, we don't. We just trying to figure it out. We are new. You ain't new. You're 25 years plus old. This is not a new league. You've been here for 20-something years. So all this stuff about, well, y'all should wait, because these guys, again, I'm telling you, men, I don't know. Some of them don't do it on purpose, but they're purposely. There's some of them are clueless about what's going on with respect to the league. See, no, I don't know basketball X's and O's, but I know money. I know business. I know contracts. And I do my research. And so what I do know is that this league has always had the money. And the fact that the NBA is taking advantage of the WNBA, and the WNBA is taking advantage of the players by not paying them what they should be paying them, but not treating this league and putting the time and the money and the effort into it to make it grow. They're not really trying to make it grow, because if they were, when Caitlin Clark came into the league, they wouldn't have been treating her the way they treated her. They wouldn't be writing these articles, Wall Street Journal, that I was going to go into. When you got 52 billion and you only want to allot 2.2 billion, you're being disrespectful. And the problem is the WNBA is not handling their business, or maybe they are handling their business and the money is not getting to where it's supposed to go. Because now I'm ready to get on Kathy Engelberg. She's getting money. Again, that thing said $25 million. Well, where is it going? Why are you not making sure the players get paid? Again, I say to you, there's an agenda. So I need to go into this. And then we're going to move into one more topic. All right. So I say that, yeah, the WNBA players should be paid more. They can be paid more. I'm going to say they can be paid more. But should they be paid more? That's another story. They got to clean up their act. Because right now, what I see is a bunch of entitled people who really, they're not acting right. This league is a mess in so many. This league is a mess in just about every way that you could possibly think that a league is in mess. It is a bad product. And the deal is, will more money put on the situation make it better? I don't know. Because they got more benefits this year, and they acting like a donkey to the person who got them those benefits. They acting like a donkey. These people used to be flying commercial. Now they get a flight that's private, and they treating the person who helped them get it like a donkey. Come on now. Do you deserve more when you that's the problem. You make it hard for people to fight you for you. I'm here knowing that the money is there. For me, if I would be writing contracts, because that's what Diva Laree does. I write contracts. And for me, this is about writing a contract because we see the proof in the numbers. You don't tell me y'all got a $75 billion, $76 billion contract and you came up $52 billion and that only amount that you want to allot us is $2.2 billion. Yeah, that's a slap in the face. That's a contract. Is Captain Engelbert going to write that contract? She not. Somebody is paying her. So let's get on that.